Hello, and welcome back to the Marketing Brief. I am your host, Brian Aquan, and this is the podcast where we briefly touch on aspects across the marketing landscape. As always, we are joined with a marketing expert, and today we are very excited to welcome in Joe Epstein. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, how are you? Happy to be here, and it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to have you, an old friend. Would you like to introduce yourself to the pod?
Sure, absolutely, to the pod.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, pod. My name is Joe. I'm not related to that other guy. Just gonna put that out there, slide that across the table.
It's good. It's a good thing to get out there, yeah.
From a marketing perspective, I know Brian actually from my days at Sony Pictures, where I got to launch 100 some odd campaigns, including 2 Spider-Mans, 2 Bond movies, 3 Resident Evil movies, 8 Adam Sandler movies, which is not enough. District 9. What did we? And Brian was on my media team. What else? What did we work on together? Anything pop out?
Dude, I talk about District 9, that campaign to date, like sometimes in interviews, like I'll bring up District 9 because that was so fun.
It was an awesome campaign, and made more awesome by kind of, I think, sort of the fluidity of what we sought to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about that campaign, and I think about that campaign a lot, I talk about it in interviews as well.
Yeah, as you should.
As it should. Is this idea of not necessarily being adherent to a tactic or a set of tactics, but a narrative North Star, and using the tools available to us at the time to be able to tell that story in a really organic, authentic, really fluid way. Some of which you saw, like the billboards and the bus sides, right? Some of which, like at some point, we just did like mock man on the street interviews that you see today that, you know, talking about the non-human sort of narrative. And it felt so sort of, again, organic, that it wound up allowing audiences to really get inside this very sort of intricate, dynamic, invasive drama.
And there wasn't there a mobile number you could call?
Yeah. We actually stole that idea from another campaign that we worked on called When a Stranger Calls, which I won Media Week's campaign of the year or something like that. But yeah, we got like 250,000 people calling and sort of fake reporting non-human sightings at like the parking lot of 7-Eleven or at like the back of Denny's. What we wound up doing is taking like, I don't know, 1,000 of them and putting together, literally almost on the fly, a nationwide map of where these calls came from. So you'd be able to like go around the nation and like find your neighborhood in like, you know, Rockford, Illinois, right? Quad Cities, shout out to the Quad Cities, and find like people like calling in sightings for non-humans.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
how Brian and I know each other. I spent many years at Sony. I ran digital at Fox. I did some subscriber acquisition at Hulu. I helped launch Apple TV Plus. I ran marketing for Machinima and ran their kind of agency doing gaming and influencers. I was TikTok subject matter expert in media entertainment, so kind of covering changing attitudes, perceptions, and behaviors of audiences and TikTok's role within those changes across broadcast and streaming and theatrical and sports and a little bit of music.
Yeah.
Most recently, I ran an innovation team for Razorfish out of Publicis for Samsung until a few weeks ago, in which I was late.
Oh, man. Yep. Comes for us all. Gosh.
Every marketer gets the cone, I suspect.
You get the cone. The community, you know, I was thinking about when you were talking about District 9, like how building a community in such a short amount of time was such an adrenaline fueled kind of exercise. That was, I mean, what did we do? We did 20, 25 releases a year, right? So you're building community like every month, sometimes 2 to 3 weeks before the movie opens, and trying to really get people all pumped up. I mean, movie marketing is really fun.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
And it's really different than, I mean, like I said, I just got off a spin selling phones. And the interesting thing about movie marketing is there's no tangible attribute to any of the product that you're selling. There's no trunk space. Yes. There's no miles per gallon. There's no 0 to 60 metric. There's no leg room. There's no third row seating. It's all, I'll use a Gen Zillennial term. It's all vibe marketing.
Vibe marketing.
It's all vibe, right? But within that is this idea of I actually really want to participate in.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to be there forever, but I want to participate in a cultural moment. And ultimately, that's really what we're building. We're building cultural moments that are meaningful. They don't, in their best case, Bond, Spider-Man, Marvel. I did a couple X-Men movies at Fox, right? Those things we might want to stay within as part of a larger fandom, a perpetual community. But
well, the franchise ones, people had preconceived notions, so you're building that. I mean, when it was an original IP, you're telling that story for the first time, but like you said, you get them so excited, you build that culture, and then opening day is something they're not going to miss, right? They're going to go see it opening weekend because they have to be part of that community. If you want to stay in our community, you got to see the movie.
Fingers crossed. But even so, you look at horror movies. Horror movies, as you know, are very big opening weekend sort of events.
Yeah. Once it's spoiled after that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's spoiled, but ultimately are especially ones that are disassociated from long-term franchises. These are often impulse buys. And you go with like your crew and everyone has a good time. And there's
the theater is part of the experience. You have to see it in the theater. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like I have like a horror movie community card that I get punched, and when I get 10 movies, I get like free yogurt. Yeah. It's more just like being part of that moment. Mm-hmm. That's what it means, I think, to be part of that community, right? Being part of a moment, having a thing. I have to imagine you grew up in Boston. I have to imagine you remember going to movies, and there you go, Boston strong. Going to movies like 7th and 8th grade without your folks, with like your crew, right? The first couple times, and being like, this is effing awesome.
Yeah, right? Just being at the mall. Yeah, you get dropped off at the mall. It was a great moment. So much freedom.
I have to tell you, I remember, and I'm going to date myself here. I remember my entire, like half my 8th grade class snuck into Breakfast Club.
Nice.
There were like 40 kids. And behind us was like the 9th grade class.
Yeah.
And like that was a communal moment, right? That was a really meaningful moment for us.
40 sneak-ins.
I'm pretty sure it was PG, so I don't know if it was a sneak-in.
Yeah.
It might have been R. I mean, there's plenty for the MPA to sort of sink their teeth into that one.
Yes. I remember dealing with them too. All right. Well, TikTok is an interesting place to go. I'd also, I'd love to talk about what you think what role marketing plays. Now I feel like it's becoming everything. I think I talked on this podcast with some people about a time when media did its thing, creative did its thing, everyone came together, then it was launched, and now it's all underneath marketing, which is responsible for the strategy, the execution, the analysis, like all of the kind of building the whole machine now. How do you kind of look at that and make sense of that? Yeah, how do you orient that?
Well, let's take a look back and take just a peek at media studies for a minute. There are two things I think that occurred, right? When you look back in our little sort of our time machine, cue the Goo Goo Dolls. What were you like?
Yours and mine. Right? Yeah.
Back in the day, think about your formats and your platforms. Platforms first. You had 4 broadcast channels, and X number of cable channels. You had newspaper, you had radio, and you had outdoor. So you had these discrete platforms, and the formats as a result were 30s, newspaper, outdoor, and then you had PR, right? And you could run a campaign in a kind of a compartmentalized manner. The format and the platforms allowed you to be able to scale in a compartmentalized way. Yes. Fast forward, we have this incredibly fluid relationship with multiple screens and in multiple, let's call them, for lack of a better term, mind states. There'll be moments when we have our parent hat on. There'll be moments when we'll have our just Joe indulge me, my brain is mush moment. We'll have moments where we're sports fans, right? And we go from our laptops to our tablets, to our phones, to our TV screens, to our movie screens. And so from a brand perspective, what do I need to do? I need to be able to tell a cohesive story to a highly fragmented number of audience segments. And we can get to that for a second.
Yeah, at the same time. Yep.
Across a highly fragmented number of platforms that all have their own specific formats of choice.
Yeah, and reason for existing.
Right. So TikTok is really interesting. When we think about TikTok, First of all, TikTok's like big banner that they flew around in 2021 was, and beginning of 22 was like, don't make ads, make TikToks. That's totally cool. And I'm super down for that. Except when you go see a theatrical client and like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean? Because I just spent a couple $1 million on fine-tuning that trailer. It tests well. My producer and my filmmaker love it. What the fuck are you talking about? Right? So, as a result, you're getting to your question about role of marketing. Your role of marketing is to find the way in which to be able to tell a cohesive story to your fragmented audiences in a way that they'll accept it.
Yeah, that it's receptive.
They'll receive it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's in the form of TikTok dance challenge. Sometimes it's in outdoor, right? You look at kids' properties and outdoor absolutely plays because up until your kid's about 10 years old, they're in the back seat looking out the window. And when you have something that's funny in outdoor for kids' properties, that's how you'll generate that nag factor. Mm-hmm. Right. On the other end of the spectrum, you have some talky drama, some period piece that has a word bait potential. You're going to tell the story of the film as an artifact more so than what we're talking about in terms of District 9, where you're, conclave. You're really getting into the divisive political topography of the papal seat.
Yeah.
Right.
And allowing consumers to self-select their way into that, right? Like, hey, this is going to be some thick material.
Yeah. But with something like that, you talk about talent and filmmaker and craft, and you treat it as a sort of let's, for lack of a better term, artisanal choice.
Okay.
An auteur choice, as opposed to the same, how you might approach Scream 7, right? Which is all about visceral emotional reaction together and having fun with being frightened.
And why it's better than 6.
Exactly.
This is the 7th one.
Yeah.
I love that. I try to quite simply talk about marketing this way is like getting the message to the consumer, right? There's so much that has to go into that. And I love the receptivity that you brought up, because if you don't understand your consumer, if you don't understand who they are, where they are, who are the messengers that they want to hear from, that's all baked into how do I get the message to the consumer? But you can start to break that down.
What's interesting about that is, let's take this out of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to cars. Let's go to phones. Let's go to, vitamin supplements, whatever. There are two avenues that I think, the two obvious avenues that you have. One is, we have the best product out there and let us show you, and I'll go through the entire feature spec list and show you.
Yeah, very product driven.
Very product driven.
Yeah.
And depending on what kind of purchase decision that absolutely plays, and you have a pathway to tell that story. Other kinds of products are not, I always think of them as more about identity and less about utility. I think a phone, or in a lot of ways a car, those are purchase decisions about identity, right? And less about utility. Car is going to get you where you need to go, right? Is it 30 miles to gallon or 28 miles a gallon? Is it 0 to 60 in 4.6 or 4.9?
How impressed is the valet guy when I pull up?
Yeah, exactly.
The Los Angeles story.
That then backs us into this idea of what role does brand play in the world? And by and large, you talk to anybody who comes out of business school and they'll say, oh, brand is a promise of quality. And it is not. Brand is, it is, but it's far beyond that. A brand is, quite frankly,
again, that's from the product's point of view, right? So then how does the consumer see the brand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the power of a brand truly, I think today is, I patron a brand because it's how I see myself and how I want you to see me.
Identity. Yeah.
So,
but something gets you there in the first place.
Wait, hold on. Let me drop the other shoe. That is participating in culture.
Another shoe.
There's a lot of shoes. Slippers, really. We're all indoor cats now. The becomes what's it called? Participating in culture.
Yeah.
How do you win?
The community around the brand.
Exactly.
Right? The brand as a platform that says, I'm into this brand. These are all my people.
Right. Which brings us back into lessons from film marketing, lessons in community building, lessons in spinning narrative and turning narrative toward certain audience segments to shine up certain elements of how this brand participates within culture. Right?
Very eloquently put.
Yeah, so that's this, as we think about, again, moving out of media entertainment, that's a sort of, I think, a far more modern, more sophisticated way in which to approach. And there are plenty of brands that do it really, really, really well. So
yeah, I agree. Marketing. Well, I love to ask this question of all my guests. What's something you're looking forward to? It can be in your professional capacity, it can be in your personal capacity, but what's something you're excited about right now?
Seeing you again.
I like that. Okay.
Truly. Yeah. I tell you.
We ran into each other at an industry event on a Friday morning, which was a really nice one. And I had a really good time. Like, talk about community and finding your community. That was a good one.
Yeah. It's funny. I was really happy to see you. I was really happy to see Alex, who I had lunch with on Tuesday.
Nice.
It was good to see Glenn.
Alex Bruff, for the listeners.
What was it?
Glenn Ginsberg,
kind of funny about
it, though. Listeners.
Yeah. I don't know how you are. I'm not so good in big groups.
No. And since COVID, I'm worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I saw you guys, I was like, oh, sweet, I know somebody. But then it was like, you know what? I know these guys already. And when they're here, I'm not going to meet anybody new. Right?
I'm keeping the circle closed.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, all right, dude, give it a mulligan.
Yeah.
I think
but you have the soft landing. You have the soft landing into it, right?
Yeah.
And then I always say, like, I want to live a couple steps outside my confidence bubble, right? So you're always kind of challenging yourself. So, but it's like, if you have that soft landing, I'm comfortable in here, I'm very confident, and now I can expand from there.
Yes. I think the thing I'm looking forward to as I think about what's next for me professionally is reconnecting with people who I genuinely adore.
Yes.
You being one of them.
Awesome. We're doing that.
And meeting new people. Yeah. I think I've never been one of those people that's been, that's able to tell you what I want to be when I grow up. I have no idea what I want to be.
Yeah. Even if I knew that, it's way past at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I ran past it a long time ago.
Yeah. So the question becomes more for me, what do I want to learn next?
Yeah.
What do I want to experience next? We are unfortunately going through some compression in our business on a lot of levels. And so that's going to require a bit more hustle and a lot of meeting people, because that's ultimately how you find roles. Talking to as many people as you can, comparing notes, seeing what they're seeing, letting them know. Whether that's consulting work, which I need to get some traction in, or full-time work, that's kind of fun too. And I hope much of this is about attitude.
Timing is really big.
But as introverted as I am, I'm looking forward to just sort of reconnecting with old friends, comparing notes, meeting some new people, seeing what they're seeing and what they're involved in, and seeing how I might be able to add and contribute.
Yeah. It's nice to have that control over your time. I always look at time as our most precious personal asset. Right? Like how I choose to spend my time reflects on what I think is interesting and good for me. So I like that for you. So yeah, we'll definitely hang out, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe Epstein. This has been a brief conversation on the Marketing Brief podcast. I am your host, Brian Aquan. Stay curious.